This is the Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's Family.
All right, it's been, I think, a little over 2 weeks since we last had him on television here at Arizona's Family talking college basketball, and we want to know what Doug Franz has to say about everything. But he actually broke some news today, so he zooms in here from the home studio to the Extra Point Podcast. Doug, good to see you. And you were texting with Terry McDonough today, and what he said back to you is really making headlines. How did that conversation come to fruition here?
It's kind of funny to say it. It started when the news first broke that he had filed a grievance and was seeking arbitration with the NFL. And I just sent him a text that said, "Hey, I'd love to have you on the podcast. Let's talk." And that was it. And I didn't hear from him again until Saturday night at the Rattlers game. And it's like, wait a minute. And it was just a small little text that said, "Pray for Michael Bidwill, because the end is coming soon." It was something along that nature. I'm like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? And I just kind of started texting back and forth with him, and he's never totally opened up about the proof that he has. But in his opinion, the information that he has, whether it be the burner phones that he says were used by Michael Bidwill on a scheme set up by Michael Bidwill, whether it be his treatment of Steve Wilkes, his treatment of some pregnant women that were working there at the time, and some of the other things that he knows, he totally believes that the NFL is not going to be able to run from the facts that he's going to present in his arbitration case.
So has he given you any ideas about when exactly he will present that case and how the Cardinals could respond? We read your text and feel free to read it back to me here on the show, but how much more information are you kind of gathering?
I am still in the gathering process. There's the latest tweet, which I haven't broken to anybody. I haven't even put this on Twitter. So with everything, with the way everybody treats me at CBS 5, I might as well let you have the golden proof here.
Appreciate
of the next tweet that I got from today. It says, "I have the proof about him raging at pregnant ladies and other minorities." Which is shocking, because when you say I have the proof of that happening, I guess he's referring to maybe the women will come forward, or maybe he's got video of it. I don't know. But he says he's got the proof of that part of it. And he says, "Doug, if anyone knows my honor, it's you. Look at how many times you tried to get me to speak over the years and I wouldn't." Which is, I got to tell you, is totally true. He would help me with draft information post-draft. After they'd already done something, he would talk to me a little bit back and forth about the players they drafted. He would never give me even a bone mark before the draft. And he would even send this standard text that used to just flat out anger me like crazy, in which it would say, "Doug, I really love your show. You're working hard. Good job. If you need anything from me, feel free to contact Mark Dalton, Vice President of the Cardinals communication staff." You know, stuff like that. Like, that does not help me. So he's being totally honest when he says how many times I would try. He said, "It's called honoring your commitment to your team. I stayed in my lane and I did my job. And all you or anyone has to do is follow the evidence. From 2014 to 2017, I was the VP of player personnel. And in 2017, Steve Keim sent an email to his best friend, Mike Bidwill." That's what it says. In that email, Keim said to his partner in crime, Bidwill, that "I want to give Terry McDonough a 4-year contract extension because he's a great leader and a huge asset to the team." And Bidwill agreed with me, gave me a 4-year contract extension in 2017. Then in the summer of 2018, everything changed. And he's referring to everything to do with the DUI arrest in July of 2018, and then the aforementioned treatment of Steve Wilkes. And he also says that he's got information that will totally expose Michael Bidwill as it relates to terrible treatment of Steve Wilkes. Now, he doesn't specifically say in his text here that it's racially motivated, but he does say it's, quote, cruel and inhumane the way he treated Steve Wilkes. So it doesn't tell me what is the proof. It doesn't tell me what has actually occurred, but it looks like there's going to be a lot more to the story.
Well, and you've been a longtime follower of the Washington football team, the Commanders, and a long time.
Embarrassingly enough, I have. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and so you followed this Daniel Snyder case very closely. Surprised that he is still the owner there and is about to make off like a bandit selling this thing for $6 or $7 billion, whatever it's going for. I just in your heart of hearts, do you feel like this is going to get all the way to Michael Bidwill being removed as Cardinal owner?
I want to say first, I really do think that there's a lot of truth to the things that Terry McDonough is saying. But if I take everything he's told me and then I put it through the exact same prism that you just presented it as, and it's hard for me to believe that Michael Bidwill's anywhere near the things and the allegations that we have seen and the stories that even I know from friends that have worked for Washington at the time, the Washington Redskins, to think that these are on parallel paths. It's hard for me to believe. Plus, Roger Goodell is the man that will actually either A, hear the arbitration case, or B, he'll appoint someone that he knows and trusts. Well, his relationship with Michael Bidwill is much stronger than his relationship with Daniel Snyder. So it's a very hard leap to go all the way from a new set of allegations against Michael Bidwill that are going to trump those of Daniel Snyder. And when we see how patient they've been with Daniel Snyder, it's hard to believe then that they'll be less patient with Michael Bidwill.
Well, and you just think back to the Super Bowl, and they were very much in lockstep, Roger Goodell and Michael Bidwill. And I mean, I thought Michael Bidwill did a great job during the Super Bowl. I thought Arizona did a great job during the Super Bowl. And then this comes out, and you're like, okay, here we go again. We had Sarver, and then there's a report about Ishbia's culture up in Michigan at his mortgage company. I don't want to say we're getting desensitized to this because these are very serious allegations, but I guess the question would be how well do you know Terry McDonough, I guess, to vouch for his character here as we examine all sides of this issue?
It's a very, very fair question. And this is going to sound like a strange answer. I know his two of his brothers a lot better. I know Ryan McDonough extremely well. I know Sean McDonough extremely well. But one thing I will tell you that's really interesting to me is all three of these men love to use this line, and they will use it on the record, off the record, over a beer. Anytime the conversation gets serious, they will say, I am the son of Will McDonough. And they say that with a level of dignity and respect for their dad, which is so humbling, as if to say, I will never fail that man. I will never do something that disparages the honor of my last name because of that man. And all three of them say that same phrase with the same reverence that you just don't hear a lot of people talk about. So in my conversations with Terry, he's always been a very stand-up guy. In my conversations with Terry, I've already told you how I couldn't get any information from him. And he says it's because of his commitment to his employer at the time. And I can tell you there are a lot of other people in sports that I have been very good at getting to talk, and I never got Terry to talk. And one other interaction I had with him, you know me well enough to know, Mark, that if there is beer on the table, it's mine. And I was trying to push Terry McDonough one time to go get a beer with me, and he would always say no. He'd always say no. And then finally one time he goes, Doug, I have to tell you, I choose not to drink now. I'm recovering from some other issues in my life where alcohol played a part in, and I don't want that to ever play a part again in my life. And he gave me the time of which he became sober. And it was really important to him to say, I'm not judging you because I know you drink, but I just don't want to be in that environment. So all of my interactions with Terry McDonough have been of the utmost respect and professionalism. So I'm going to believe just about everything that he's sending me. But whether that, now you get into opinion of whether that elevates Michael Bidwill to the point of being removed. And to your previous point, for us to go through as a fan base everything we've seen with Daniel Snyder, and when I say fan base, I mean the entire NFL, that's a stretch, because look how far they've gone for that man.
Right, and just talking more about Terry McDonough, I interviewed him before, found him engaging, found him very interesting. I didn't know at the time about some of his issues in the past, and and that was certainly brought up in the report that the Cardinals, I guess the way that they came out and
they chose
had
to
their own
handle
statement.
the original allegations by blasting his character.
Right. So, but I mean that's about the only interaction I had with him, and then I thought it was very odd, and I think it was either 2018 or late 2017. He was sitting in the press box, and I was like, why is Terry McDonough sitting in the press box during the game? Did you have any inkling of how things were getting so sideways between Bidwill and McDonough?
You know, it's funny. I never got the inkling from Terry because, again, I would ask him, why are you in a press box? And he said, if that's a subject for you to talk to Mark Dalton about. And that would be what he said to me. So he didn't give me the answers. And I had heard through the grapevine that it had something to do with the draft. Like there were a couple players that didn't work out, and Terry was being demoted because players didn't work out the way that they thought they would. And then as I dug a little deeper, so hopefully nobody heard what I just said and got confused by it, because as I really pressed, it was not true. It was just things that they were allowing to float out, they as in the Cardinals, hoping people would grab onto it. And it never made any sense to me of, if you think less of him, why aren't you firing him? That's my biggest question. And that's why I'm kind of, when I put the pieces together, Mark, that's why I'm a little more on the side of Terry McDonough, because the exact point you made, if he's not good enough to be with Steve Keim and Michael Bidwill in the owner's suite, then why didn't you fire him? If you really think this poorly about his character, why didn't you fire him? If he's such a terrible person that you have this amazing statement from a PR firm that's outside your organization to come in and attack him, I don't know about you, but usually when I see pieces of information like that, it's like, well, why aren't you talking about the facts? Why are you immediately going after his knees? Is it a safer bet to discredit him than to actually discredit the facts? That's why every step of this, I try to go into it very hesitantly as a journalist, Mark, and I keep getting pushed to the Terry McDonough side of things.
Well, and then you think about Ryan McDonough and how much his words carried weight in the removal of Robert Sarver. He was one of the guys that was talking, and it almost seems like they've compared notes here. Am I wrong in that feeling that we could have both the McDonough brothers bring down two of the professional sports owners here in the Valley of the Sun?
I don't think you're wrong in that, but I would caution anybody if they thought these two men, the McDonoughs, had an agenda, because I know that Ryan was very, very quiet with me about anything other than I would talk to him about the draft a lot, and I would learn about his frustrations with Robert Sarver only from a draft and some player personnel decisions. He would never open up to me about problems in the workplace. And I heard about it, but I always kind of took it as if maybe people were being a little too sensitive until I really read about it in ESPN like everybody else. And because of that, I will honor Ryan McDonough because of how quiet he kept it until the report came forward. Once the report came forward, then he said a lot of things that were factual to the lawyers that did the investigation that were paid by the NBA. And that's where, even though I think Adam Silver dropped the ball with only a 1-year suspension, we've got to give a lot of credit to the NBA because they weren't afraid of what the allegations were and what the reports were and what happened. And they did a thorough investigation. And you look at the NFL with what they did with Washington and saying, no, we want just a verbal report because we don't want to have anybody found out from the standpoint of confidentiality. Now you have to immediately question whether or not the NFL would do any remotely type of true investigation into here. And I get the same feeling that Terry McDonough has sat on this for this long because as an employee, he felt loyal to his employer.
Right. And I look at the Arizona Cardinals right now, and I mean, this is just the whole thing is just sad. And you just look at the Kyler situation, getting booed at the Coyote game the other night. And I just look at, and Buddha requesting the trade. And I just think, I mean, this feels like another stretch of mediocrity on par with the Suns not making the playoffs for 10 years. It's the whole thing is just sad.
I totally agree. And it doesn't seem like there's any kind of light at the end of the tunnel. And if there is a light, it's definitely a train that's headed right for us.
All right, so we turn our attention back to the field of play here from the serious issues that Terry McDonough bringing to light on Michael Bidwill, because we do have a Suns playoff run going on right now. And,
do we?
Thank goodness. I'm glad we don't have to talk about this every day.
But, no, I meant, do we have a run? I mean, when does the run start? I don't think they know it started.
Okay, I'm alarmed. I'm concerned. I'm not feeling like they can't win. But when does Kevin Durant become Kevin Durant?
Great question. As far as emotions, you're alarmed. I'm not alarmed. I'm angry. Okay. I still have zero doubt they're going to beat the Clippers. Zero doubt. They will win this series. I'm standing up here to say it. And if they don't win, I'm doing absolutely nothing to prove myself wrong. But I'm telling you, I think that I'm highly confident they're going to beat the Clippers. Your specific question is a good one, and that's why I'm not afraid. Kevin Durant has so much respect for Monty Williams, so much respect for Chris Paul, and so much respect for Devin Booker that I totally feel like it got in his way in game one, where he was more passive. And you know who he reminded me of? LeBron James early with the Miami Heat, in which LeBron kept deferring. And it was a conversation with Dwayne Wade that said, step up, start being LeBron James. I'm not here for everyone to say it's Dwayne Wade's team. Start playing ball. And I totally believe a conversation like that has happened or will happen, because Devin Booker is the most egoless star there is in the world, unless it becomes about an all-star game, unless it becomes about getting the recognition after he's already done the work. That's when there is some ego there. But as far as on-court ego, Devin Booker just cares about winning, and I guarantee you're going to see a much more aggressive Kevin Durant in the next game. Because think about what he said in the postgame. I was outside spreading the court for my teammates. Torrey Craig was awesome, Mark. I don't need Kevin Durant spreading the court for Torrey Craig to get open. I'm okay. KD, go. And once he goes, we're going to be fine.
Can Kawhi Leonard guard Kevin Durant, though? I'm a little concerned here. The Clippers can guard the Suns 5-on-5.
Kawhi Leonard can guard any human being he chooses to. He is the most underrated. The problem is it's hard to rate him, because how do you know when he's going to play healthy? When he plays as hard as he possibly can, but he just doesn't play a lot. So if he's back for good and we're not going to have any other injury issues, or they don't just magically say, let's manage his loads with a 2-0 lead or something, yes, he can guard any player on the planet. He's one of the greatest defenders we've ever seen in this game. He can shut down Kevin Durant. And when I say shut down Kevin Durant, that means 20 points. That means 18 points, okay? He can't shut down everybody. And that's the difference, and that's why you make the move for a Kevin Durant. The catch for me, Mark, is you can't have DeAndre Ayton being so lazy on the defensive glass, and you can't have Chris Paul going 2 for 8, because some of those are like turnovers. If you're not having Devin Booker or KD shoot, that's going to open it up for other people, and those open people have to hit shots.
No, they do, but you know, the bench, I mean, I see in Jock Landale attempt all the shots, not seeing Josh Okogie. I mean, you think about Bridges and Cam Johnson and all the just life that they brought to the team. The team looked lifeless last night in the first quarter. And then, I mean, what I loved about those Suns teams, remember when they'd kick it around like 8 times just around the horn? Everybody had their spot on the floor. I really feel like this team doesn't have its spots on the floor, hasn't played together long enough, and there might not be enough time to make the adjustments. Do you feel like there's time?
I think the run will be long enough that there is. How well Denver looked in game 1 made me a little nervous, because I like the matchup of Suns and Denver. I've been the one assuming that they get through the Clippers. And then I'm thinking, if I'm right on these 2 matchups that are good matchups for the Suns, the bad matchups of Golden State, Sacramento, and maybe Memphis is dead, who knows? But of Memphis and the Lakers, those are teams you're not going to see to the Western Conference Finals. And then the answer to your question is yes, I do think there will be enough time, but there is no doubt that in game one, Monty failed big time. No, I'm not in this new fire Monty crowd. I'm angry at Monty, but he still has been a savior for this franchise. So if we get personal, get off his back and I'll defend him. But if we're talking about his performance in game one, he was one of the biggest contributors to the Clippers win. Yes, Monty Williams. That decision to have Landry Shamet have over 20 minutes while Okogie's under 10, that was a painful, unjustifiable decision by Monty Williams. He failed in game one. I don't believe he's going to fail in game two.
Yeah, it's like the bench guys didn't seem to know their roles, and with 11 guys playing.
Right.
Remember when D'Antoni would play like 7? Remember, It was just like they're paying all these guys and they're just sitting there.
He never figured out that the season in Europe is 50, 60 games, and that's why he could get away with playing 6 or 7 guys. Suddenly, he never got a memo that we play 82, and he thought, you know what? Since my guys don't have to play defense, they don't have to play half a side anyway, so they should be fresh enough to play 7 deep.
Right. All right, Suns and what? What are you saying?
I still like Suns in 5. I'm telling you.
Wow.
I'm not ashamed at all. I like the Suns beating the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard is all that. He is fantastic. But usually when DA lays this big of an egg and allows Zubats to own him, we should be okay. Because this is not boxing out. It's not Red Rover. You know, if you watch DA, watch his head. That's how you can tell if he's engaged. If he goes like this and starts watching the shot, then he's off. Look at your guy, get a body on him, get in between him and the basket, then go after the ball after you've secured your guy. This armbar Red Rover box out of his was complete trash in game one, but what usually happens? I don't know why they don't get on him every game, but they'll get on him after the game. They'll get on him the next day, and then he usually responds. That's why I believe they'll keep Zubats off the boards. They'll realize Russell Westbrook's energy, and they'll come back better in game two.
Well, the last time Monty got on him during the game, Mr. Orange tweeted the video, and we all went crazy, and they lost in game 7. So maybe they're trying to manage things from a PR perspective, and it's only game 1. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna say Suns in 7. I just think that
Okay.
I think the Clippers, but maybe this is like an Allen Iverson. The Sixers beat the Lakers in game 1 of the NBA Finals, and then you make your biggest improvement.
Well, then let me take over the Extra Point podcast and ask you the question.
Do it.
Is Mark McClune scared?
Yes. Yeah, I think the Clippers can guard the Suns, and yes. I think if Kevin Durant's not going to be Kevin Durant, and nobody else knows their role. I mean, Monty playing 11 guys. That's just him saying, will this work? No. Ish Wainwright, can you hit a 3? No. Jock Landale, how about no? I mean, it's just Devin Booker playing with the guys.
Crazy.
That I know is like the Suns from 2014. All right, so
the only way to put it is Monty either panicked or disrespected the Clippers. Right. I don't know which one it was. It might have been disrespect. He might have thought you can't beat us without Paul George, so I'm going to use this series to prepare for Denver. And what I don't get is after the first quarter, why he didn't figure it out immediately and say, okay, I'm scrapping that plan.
Right. But yeah, game 1, maybe he's not concerned. He doesn't seem concerned. Let's turn our attention to the Arizona Diamondbacks here before we get out of here, because we're fired up. I'm fired up. You're fired up. The town's fired up. Does this look like a playoff team? Or is Zach Gallen going to win the Cy Young Award, and the Diamondbacks going to be playing in October here 2 weeks in?
The answer to anything to do with October was squarely on Ken Kendrick and Mike Hazen and Torey Lovullo with this one, and I'll answer your question with a question. How long is Madison Bumgarner in the starting rotation?
Right.
He's a wonderful human being, and he is trying. I don't believe it's a case where Madison Bumgarner is slacking off. He's not willing to try. I don't believe he's not prepared. I think this guy is just a minor league pitcher right now. That's all there is to it. And it's not my fault you're paying him $17 million. You made the decision to pay him $17 million to pitch. Now pay him $17 million to not pitch. It's sunk cost. And as long as you have him in the starting rotation, you are saying to your team, we are not trying. And I don't know why no one is standing up in that front office to say, we're done with this. It's no longer his starting spot. He can compete for it. He can go to the bullpen. You know the rules. If he goes down to Reno, he can declare himself a free agent, and he would do that immediately, and it would be sunken cost. But it doesn't change the fact the only reason he should be in the rotation is if they've got a 7-game lead in the standings, and they're just allowing him to eat innings. He's not a major league pitcher right now. And I'm not attacking the man's character, but he doesn't belong out there. But I am attacking the character of the Diamondbacks as competitors as long as they're putting him in the rotation.
Do you DH him?
That's not crazy. Maybe if this was the first year of the National League DH, but I bet it's been so long since he's really focused on his hitting that I'm not going to let him have that chance.
Right. Well, I mean, you're paying him enough money. I mean, what about put him in the bullpen? I mean, can he get anybody out?
That.
You think he get people out?
I do think he can get some people out because he's just as a lefty being a little different and not trying to pitch deep into games, just come in and what we call it in baseball a loogie. I'm sure that's a wonderful thing for the CBS 5 bosses to hear, but that's what a left-handed reliever that comes in and gets one guy. Now, granted, with the pitch rules, you've got to face 3, but just come in with 2 outs, get that tough lefty out, and then go back and sit down. And there you go. There's nothing wrong with that. And would you want to spend $17 million on a guy like that? No, but you've already got him, so you might as well use him in a way that keeps your competitive juices acceptable.
How do you like the Diamondbacks bullpen so far this year?
It's a great question. I don't know what to make of McGuff. Okay. Right. I mean, when he fails gloriously. his
all the good ones do, though. I feel like Jose Valverde did. I feel like, yeah. I mean, that's you can't have it every night. It's impossible to have it every night coming out of the pen. But if a guy can fail gloriously and come back and get right back on the horse and get outs the next day, that's the kind of guy I want in my bullpen.
But he has been. I mean, in his 2 big blow-ups, he's allowed 4 earned runs and gotten 1 out. So he's almost at an infinity ERA in the losses. But in the other games, he's come in, boom, 1, 2, 3, maybe give up a walk and get the other 2 guys out. He's been doing fine in the other non-flame-out games. I still believe, and I love analytics, but I still believe you need a closer. You need a guy that says the 9th inning is mine. Everybody else build up to that. So whenever it's just like the old phrase in football, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you've got 0. Well, if you've got a bullpen by committee, that means we can't find a closer. And that's the problem because you're not really building to anything. I right now would choose Chafin until he blew it and let Chafin try to be the closer because I totally believe that there are certain people that can handle the 9th inning. And if you go by the theory, you know what? Let's bring in our closer to close out the 7th. Okay. The closer did close out the 7th. Great. But the guy you're bringing into the 9th inning is scared to death. And now you lose it in the 9th.
Well, and I wonder, Torey Lovullo was talking in spring training when they were over playing the White Sox about the concept of the super reliever, of that guy coming in and pitching the most important moment of the game, whether it's in the
like
7th,
Archie Bradley when he was hot.
Right. I mean, do you buy into that at all? Is that something that you could get behind in the new age of baseball?
It's never been, and it's because of this. I totally get behind it for that individual. I totally believe you could take a Chafin, you can take an Archie Bradley, you can take a guy and say, he is my inning closer. So I'm going to bring him in to get me out of a bad situation or a clean inning, but you're going up against 3, 4, 5 in the order. If 3, 4, 5 come up in the 7th inning, you're saying, I'm bringing in my closer now to face their best guys. That's not my problem with it, Mark. My problem with it is, then come the 9th inning when you're now pitching your 3rd or 4th best bullpen guy and he's coming in scared to death. Maybe if he came in the 7th, he would feel like, okay, if I screw up, there's still 2 more at-bats for my team. I'm okay. Just throw strikes. You bring him into the 9th when it's screw up and it's a blown save and the game's over. I think that gets to guys who aren't ready.
All right. Last question, and I agree with you. Andrew Chafin, coolest looking Diamondbacks closer that you can remember. I'd still vote Valverde, but I like when Chafin comes in. It's good TV.
Yeah. I like the look on everybody else's face when B.Y. Kim would come in to the game because the look on everybody else's face in the room was sheer panic. And there's just something magical when you say good television. If you remember all the TV cameras showing all the Diamondback fans when Kim was in, that was good television too because it was about ready to have people rip their own face off.
Right. Yeah, it's we've never, I mean, going back to I think Matt Manti and Brandon Lyon, and we can go down. Brad Boxberger, who's back with the Cubs. I can't believe he's still pitching.
Boxberger reference,
right?
And you won.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I've watched a lot of Diamondbacks baseball here. Hey, so great stuff. Appreciate the time. Just tell us real quick what you're working on, where we can find the podcast, and where we can hear you. And the next time you will talk to Terry McDonough and put out that information.
Well, it's cool of you because the latest text from Terry McDonough, we broke it right here on the Extra Point podcast. So hopefully I get another one to break on my own show. I'll be live from 8 to 10 on WTSMTV.com coming up every weekday morning. So therefore tomorrow morning. And then the podcast drops before noon, wherever it is you get your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever you want. Just go to DougFranzUnplugged.com and choose your way to find podcasts.
Great stuff. Hey, thanks for the time. Keep working
Mark,
hard, man.
Anytime. My best to the family.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and AZFamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.